Welcome to the Road to Redemption podcast with your host, Cam Williamson. Each week, Cam sets out to shatter the labels and stigmas associated with mental health awareness by giving life lessons and raw overviews of events happening around the world.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I am, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. Great to be back with you. I have no notes. Johnny Depp won the trial, so the verdict was in. You guys saw that. If you watched the live stream, I gave my opinion on guns and the state of everything there. Today, I was asked to give my take on my life with bipolar disorder. I'm going to try to make this relatively quick, though I'll span through my life, because I have dedicated the last, I'd say 5 to 6 years of my life trying to heal. Not heal as in I'm blaming other people for traumas that I've gone through, but heal from things that my self, my ego, and my heart have processed as pain and trauma. So let's start there. I also come to a conclusion, maybe a generalization, that most mental health struggles stem from pain. Okay? So, specifically talking about bipolar 1. What is bipolar 1? Bipolar 1 is a mood disorder where you can go from a manic state, which is super active, very, not needing a lot of sleep seemingly, mind's racing, kind of unable to hold a real conversation because you're just kind of rambling or whatnot. You kind of get some grandiose ideas about what you may be capable of or what's going on in your life. The difference between this and things like schizophrenia is you're not hallucinating. You're not actually seeing people that aren't there. You're not having conversations with people or voices that aren't actually in the room. You're still present in your life, right? But it can cause you to be very productive even, seeming, one day. And then maybe this lasts for 2 days, 3 days. And then you hit a depressive episode where you are just down hard and you have no energy and you have no motivation at all. You have very low thoughts about yourself. I don't know what I just did with my water. And so all that is encompassing of bipolar 1. You have hypomanic or hypermanic, which is like you're not all the way to a concerning level of mania. Full-blown mania is kind of an example of what I went through almost a year ago today, where I had, and we'll get to it, but I had an idea in my head, kind of meshing with my spiritual beliefs at the time, that I was on a destined mission of a soul journey, I guess. And I was trying to figure that out. I was trying to answer a lot of questions in my own head, some of which now in hindsight may have been racing thoughts and really my body and my mind trying to deal with a traumatic experience that I had gone through. One that I never really dealt with. And we'll start there, right? So things you don't deal with. So that means you have to go through some stuff. When I was a kid, this is not putting any judgment on my parents, I spent a lot of my time alone when I wasn't during the day at school or right after school in a caregiver's attention with friends. I spent a lot of time alone. My mother worked a lot, so when she got home from work, she would go to bed because she had to be up the next morning for work, and I would be left to entertainment. So I watched a lot of TV, a lot of movies. I've always loved music, so there would be countless hours that I would just be in my room listening to music. I was a 90s kid. I was born in 92. So I did see the birth of the internet, and I was privy to it. I found a lot of solace in my young teenage years in things like AOL chat rooms and AIM messengers and talking with my friends and stuff like that, because this was the birth of, we could kind of give the phones up, right? People that I connected with, a lot of trauma bonds I'm now finding in my older years. We were friends in younger years because we had the same thing in common, which is we were alone a lot. So we were able to hang out a lot together because our parents didn't really pay attention to us. It's not until you get older that you really are capable to get yourself in some serious bullshit that even the busiest of parents start to have to pay attention, because either the law's getting involved, which happened to me a couple times. I was in trouble for arson, for playing with fire in my high school's football stadium with a couple buddies, and just shit like that. And, the mood behavior of it all when you're young is hard to pinpoint, especially in early 2000s. We didn't really talk about mental health. We were just called troubled kids. So we were kids referred to as what's a latchkey kid. So like when I came home from school, my dad wasn't around. So in that way, he lived somewhere else. So my mom was still at work. So we had ways to get in the house that were safe and whatever, but then we were home alone. And it was kind of just known, like, hey, at a certain age, you're allowed to go out, but be back when, like, the streetlights come on and shit. So you spend a lot of time out, and you make connections, you make friends, you as a young boy, you meet girls, and you hang out with them in the park and shit like that. And then, again, as you get older, you don't really realize it, but you're setting a lot of habits into your life, which is when you're bored, you escape, you find other people, codependent relationships, things like that. And that's what you're all doing, but it's innocent because you're just enjoying life together. It's what kids do. Then your young teen years come around, and now you can drive. So your radius of ability to connect with people is larger. Now, this is usually where rules come in, and your parents say, I better not catch you here, here, and here, and I better not find out you got more than X amount of people in your car and shit like this. But as young kids will do, especially if you've been out in the streets or in the parks breaking rules and, playing with cigarettes and doing shit you're not supposed to do, as kids will do, the same thing is going to extend out when you get more freedoms, obviously. And then you have what's called like the pastor's kid syndrome, which is like the pastor's kid is usually the worst because they're so controlled all the time. The second they get some freedom, now they just go off the fucking rails. Or some people call it the Catholic school syndrome or whatever. All the while, it's really just mood behaviors, right? As a young kid, you have a lot of desires. I want to play in a band. I want to be an artist. I want to fall in love. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a doctor. Whatever your thing is, you have a lot of goals and aspirations. There's also different parts of yourself. You have the goals that you have for yourself that equate to your family, your mom and your dad and your sisters and your aunts or whoever's bringing you up. Then you have your school aspirations. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Or I don't give a fuck about any of that. I want to be an athlete. I want to be a rock star. I want to be a creative. I want to do one of these things. Or again, you toe the line, you do what you're told to do, and you're just kind of going through waiting to figure yourself out. And I think there's a lot of those people too. But ultimately what we're chasing is connection to something. We're slowly creating an identity out of ourselves every single day. What do I find value in that seems to value me as well, that I'm going to choose to invest in the future of my life? So again, for me, a lot of it was entertainment, it was my friends, and it was romantic relationships that I found myself in as a young child, because those were very important to me. I saw a dysfunctional family. I never knew a mom and a dad who lived together and happy meals and, stuff like that. That wasn't my life. So from a young age, watching like Corey and Topanga and stuff like this, I had this dream that I was going to do life right, and I was going to find the love of my life in high school or whatever, and we were going to get married and, live in our hometown, and it was going to be like just this perfect picket fence life. Well, then life happens, right? And it usually stems right around the same time that all these freedoms come in. So then those connections break up, friends move away, people break up, things happen, and you're left broken for the first time. Or parents start to divorce, in your teens. Life happens. Your parents tell you, get your shit together, figure out what you're going to do, get a fucking job, like start paying for some of this stuff, or they fall on hard times. God knows what happens in everyone's family. And then these, again, automatic responses to life are now not so innocent, where you were once running to a park to meet up with friends, and when you're young, you don't really talk about, oh, my mom and my dad did this. Sometimes you'll bitch about it a little, but it's You just do other things. You play. You engage in a football game that's already going on. You start skating with your buddies that are already skating, and that's what you do. You listen to music or something to just drown out the problems of what's going on around you. Well, then when you become a young adult, now that's not so okay. People are like, hey, you'll fucking burn out. Get off the skateboard. Get off the drum set. Get off the, painting canvas. Get off the computer. Get off the whatever your thing is. Put the guitar down. And it becomes this thing where it's like, oh, okay, now this thing that people didn't judge me for because I was just a kid being a kid and it was okay to deal with my problems in these outlets or whatever. Now I'm a bum for this, man. Fuck. So now you become a self-loathing person still who has this innocence and these dreams, but now they're starting to get crushed by people around you. So then, I think in most of us, we try to still please people, especially when you do come from a lot of, times of by yourself. You become a people pleaser because you just want honest connection with other human beings. So you learn very quickly, okay, in order to keep people around, you got to make them like you. And everybody's different. So to make a bunch of people like me, that's very hard. I have to be funny for them. I have to be shy and mysterious for them. I've got to be, funny and loud and entertaining for them. And I have to be educated and put together over here for this person because they don't like any of that other stuff that I am. And then you don't really know what part of it is you, especially when you're someone like me. And again, I took a lot of my influences and I learned a lot of my lessons from movies and TV shows, so that it's quite dramatic and it's quite eccentric, right? So I grew up believing in my own right that love was meant to be fought for at all costs. I saw my parents who weren't together. I saw that fail, and I saw some, I saw the other extreme where my grandparents were together for like upwards of 55 years. So I had a goal in mind that at all costs, I was no good at academics, right? And this is probably where the beginning of my bipolar symptoms come in. Like, I remember sitting in school when I was a kid, looking around, going, all these people have no problem sitting there writing these notes, and I don't care at all. I would rather be talking to my friend and talking about like the things we were talking about before class and how one day we're going to have our own pro skateboard and then we're going to form our own band, and it doesn't matter if we ever blow up, but we're going to do that forever. And it was like I always had that going in my head. Always. And as much as I would try, because there were times I would get in deep trouble for being so poor at school, and I'd be like, okay, this is it, dude. I'm going to come in and I'm going to lock this shit down and I'm going to be a good fucking student. And I'd try fucking day 1, minute 1. Let's go. Come on, I'm paying attention. And then by hour 1, I'm doodling on my fucking shit, making new band logos and drawing hearts and shit. And it's just my brain is exploding, trying to stimulate itself because I'm bored to death, because not only do I not care about what we're talking about, but also like I can tell that this person that's teaching me doesn't care. They don't genuinely give a shit if I retain this information, because I don't think they even know it's important. When a teacher's teaching you algebra, especially today, they know you're going to use your phone. So it's like, let's talk about life. Let's teach people some stuff, right? Okay. Then we get into my older life, right? Now I haven't dealt with trauma in the way of even acknowledging it. I've just been me, right? When you're 18, you're just you. There's not, you didn't usually acknowledge the fact that your life in any way was traumatic or you were abused in most situations or something like that. You just value what's close to you. Again, I think if you still have a lot of your innocence, you still value the things you value. And for me, love was always the most important thing. So I always tried over anything to prove to whoever was around me that I loved them. And I would do anything to prove that. I would give anything. I would, do anything, no matter how wild and how massive. So that attracted a lot of people that were extreme around me, especially romantic relationships. And, in that, I think birds of a feather will flock together, and you get some similar symptom types that come in where people are very codependent and they're very love bomby, and then they become very distant when their emotions come up, and now things are hard and you really have to figure out who you are and what you stand for, and is this something I want to take forward, and is this person or is this situation something that I see myself in a few years? And these are long-term thoughts and mature decisions you have to make that, if left to your own devices at a young age, you have to then make on your own with no guidance. So then you make poor decisions. You hook up with people, you have kids, you drop out of high school, you start taking drugs, you start drinking, whatever your story is. And now, where you were this innocent kid one day looking for friends and people to help you through life and build dreams and talk about creative ideas or whatever your thing is, whatever your dreams are, you do that with the crew you make. And then people start to let you down, and people leave you for other people, and and people just don't meet the tally that you had in mind, right? Sometimes you agree to things with people. We're going to be best friends forever, man. It doesn't matter what. And then just years go by and you realize, man, I don't know whatever happened there. And shit happens. And then you realize one day, God damn, I'm hurt. I'm really hurt. And then you realize, now I'm just sad a lot, right? I still go through my day, but I have all these feelings of sadness, and I'm pushing them down, and I don't really know why. I don't really even know what I'm pushing down, but I'm pushing down this feeling of loss, almost like grief, real grief. And I think that's where the beginning stages of depression set in, which is where your depressive episodes start, or start the pilot light for them start, because now you're building this pilot light of a fire of things that are going to eat you alive that you just haven't dealt with. Maybe it's, again, because you just didn't have the guidance to know you were supposed to. I think for a lot of us, it was common to believe that you just got over shit. You just get over it. It is what it is. So then, you try things in life and you go, okay, that really didn't work. And for some of us, we rebound faster, and some of us, we rebound slower. So after, your best friend and you aren't friends anymore, I don't know how long that can take some people to rebound. Or your first real love interest, that breaks apart. Or, the college you thought you were going to get into, you don't. Or you didn't make whatever you were going to do. Your band hasn't made it yet. Your paintings no one cares about yet. So you're in this place in life where you're questioning everything. You're trying to find a foundation. You only know what works to get you moment by moment, especially if, again, you still have no guidance. So drugs are there, alcohol's there, that codependent relationships are there. So again, to survive, you find those things. It's very rare that you find a person young in life that just completely isolates and shuts off completely from everyone. I can't speak to that because I didn't go through that. I have always been, my pilot light has been human connection. And as long as I have that, I've always known that I'll be okay. But I've always also, like I said, attracted people with low levels of emotional intelligence. So we are very fleeting people, myself included, where when you start, especially with abandonment, when you start to see signs that you may be abandoned, you become a severe flight risk, which can be an issue, right? And this is where manic behavior starts to come in. When I was young, very young, when people would be arguing or bad shit was going on, you'd get broken up with, someone, your best friend got mad at you, or whatever is important to you when you're a kid. I remember I would just grab my skateboard and go. And just go. Because again, back then I didn't have cell phones or nothing like that, so no one could come find you. And I remember one day I got in serious trouble because I missed football practice. I missed everything. And it was because I was out, hanging out. And I came back and I was like, I know how much trouble I'm about to get in, and I don't give a fuck. So that was the first time that I got this rebel feeling in me that was like, oh, I can do that. That is always an option, to just take the fuck off. And sure, I have to deal with it at some point. But at least I might just get 10 minutes of fucking silence from all the bullshit going on. So then you start to build something with people you care about, not people you're forced to be with because you're blood related or whatever. And then you try genuinely. I don't want to run away from this. I want to work on this. And then they run. Fuck. Now they're the runner. because they're feeling what you felt before, and they don't know how to do it either. So now people are just running away from each other. Okay, now how many people have ran away from you by the time you're 21? Well, 21, here comes alcohol. If you partake in such a thing, this is going to lower your inhibitions. This is going to cause you to be more risky at times, call people, text people, say things, express yourself in different ways. Or, like me, it takes a long time to realize you're just suppressing emotions for a long period of time. You're just pushing down stories, thoughts, people, experiences, memories that are just labeled too painful to deal with. And you're labeling it as, well, I'm going to this party. We're celebrating this deployment. We're celebrating coming home. We're celebrating not having to work. We're celebrating being halfway through. We're celebrating whatever. There's always a reason. There can always be a reason. And then we have the issues of balance control, where usually the more pain you have, the more issue you have not using substances that help you not feel that pain. So now we have addiction. Now, some people get addicted to many different things. I got addicted to alcohol mainly. Because with alcohol, I didn't remember a lot of the traumas. Yes, when I would get drunk, I would talk about people that I cared about greatly and the pain that I had, but I was able to be honest about that pain then. Where when I wasn't drinking, it all stayed in. It was like people's names didn't even come up. People's times of my life just gone from my memory while I was sober. But when I was drunk, I was like, oh, this is me. And I identified with it because oh, I'm back. I'm remembering things again, and I'm having these dreams again and these creative ideas again. Holy shit, this trauma is gone now. This is me. And then I identified with the alcohol because I had identified in all the relationships and all the hobbies that I was doing. And again, none of them were me, but I identified with them all. So then I became 25, and I had gone through a pretty nasty divorce. I had been arrested twice for a DUI. I was just coming home from my first deployment, and I was about to get married again for the second time. And I had one daughter. I had, a girl when I was 17 said she had my kid and then claimed it wasn't mine and took off. And that had happened, and I had a very serious relationship that I've spoken about. If you guys want to see that, watch the episode on Get Closure and Move On. Talk about that one. So I had gone through a lot in my life, and now I was just a man in survival mode. So I was constantly still drinking to mask all these pains that I never dealt with. I just ran away from constantly. And then I became a flight risk at all times because I didn't care about myself at all anymore. The pain had grown so deep, and I had run for so long that at times there would be days where I just couldn't get out of bed because the thought of never being a good father to children that I'd fallen in love with and now could never see again, or didn't get to see as much as I want to, which is the case with my oldest daughter. And then friendships that I just suddenly, maybe it was just maturity was bringing them back and bringing fondness of my childhood back and going, man, I do remember playing football, and I do remember hanging out in the park, and I do remember skateboarding, playing hockey and playing drums and learning about what I like. And at some point around the age of 27, I realized that, holy shit, I'm allowed to like the things I like. All these people that cast me aside for someone else or a job, or, they valued school when I didn't, or they broke the promise of friendship when I didn't. That was all choices that they were also allowed to make for their life. I don't own anyone. I'm not possessive of anyone. But the only way I learned that was because I was very possessive over people in relationships, and you had to call me all the time, and you had to be where I knew you were because I was cheated on, and I had felt the violation of free time and free will before. And that makes a person very possessive, which can make you very manic. as a survival response to waking up in the morning, having to check your phone to find out where they are, and are they really at work, and who are they talking to while they're at work, and that it can cause you to just snap at the opening of your eyes. And then dealing with that stresses your nervous system out so much that eventually you go, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. And you put the phone down, and then you just become this bed slug for days, and you go, I can't even. The reality hurts too much. And then you learn that's a way. Watching a show is enough of a distraction, sleeping your day away. And it wasn't until I was arrested the third time for my DUIs that I sat in a cell and I watched people sleep their days away and find ways to kill their time. And I go, this is the same shit people were doing on the outside. These guys have just finally gotten in trouble. Their life has become so unmanageable because of their actions. Because they continue to choose that picking up a bottle is easier than just crying over the grief. Right? And that's kind of where I was locked in for a long time. The depressive episodes. I was focused on being depressed. I had a lot of things in my life that depressed me, so I was a depressed guy, and that's just who I was. Well, then, again, this moment turned where I started to find hope again. And I really worked on myself, and I got myself healthy. I got myself sober. I found, mental health. I found psychology. I found philosophy, and all those things really helped a lot. But then I noticed again, some similar patterns were coming back, that I was starting to become addicted to mental health, philosophy, self-improvement, and things like that. And I would go days where you couldn't touch me. You couldn't tell me shit. I'm the best, and I'm building an empire, right? After 4 or 5 days of that, then reality would hit me again that I'm not shit. Remember all these people that left you. Remember all these people in their absence, in their silence, that remind you you're not shit. Listen to that right now. Also, in the beginning, while I'm building a podcast that no one's listening to, I'm just looking at zeros across all screens. So I'm battling with this self-worth and acknowledging that I've put it in everything else and everyone else to acknowledge my own self-worth, and I try to put it back into myself, and I go, well, I think if I just tell my story, if I just talk about myself, which is, sure, it's selfish, I guess, but if I just share my experiences, maybe it can connect to other people. And then when I would tell my therapist things like this, they would see these ebbs and flows that I was going through. And I would be expressing to them how difficult it was. Because on Tuesday, if I'm sitting in the therapist's office on Wednesday, I'm expressing, yesterday, doc, I felt amazing. I got everything I wanted to get done. I went on my fitness walk. I drank the water I was supposed to. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then today, I was back in a spot where if anyone talks to me, I'm about to burst into fucking tears, and I don't know why. Like, I didn't have a bad dream. I didn't sleep bad. Why am I like this, doc? And then you go through 3 days of loathing, of what the fuck is wrong with me? This right here is why people leave. Because I wouldn't deal with this shit either. Yesterday, they thought they could count on me, and today, I'm me again. This is me. And then the depression hits, and life itself and the observations that you see that have stacked up as your reality show you exactly that, right? This is what people, in the words of A Knight's Tale, you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. Like, it is what it is. The amount of people that have chosen to stay with you have. The amount of people that have chosen to leave have. Jobs that have chosen to keep you have. Jobs that have chosen to disregard you have. And everything in between. Dreams that have worked out did, and the ones that didn't. But then, in the depths of those, I'm familiar with suicidal thoughts and things like that, which I'm honest with my therapist about, and going like, there have been people in my life that I've never been able to picture my life without. So there have been days where I laid there thinking, like, without that person, I don't want to be alive anymore. And to be honest about that, I think is important because it keeps me here. If I kept it in my head, then it's just a tool that self-loathing part gets to use. But if I bring it out and I keep it honest, maybe just one person would hear it and then they could connect to it and they go, hey, no, it's not that you're the only one that goes through it. And that was the only goal of all this, was to create a community of people that knew they weren't alone. So then I was diagnosed around the age of 26, I think, with bipolar 1. And I learned about it a lot. And I learned what manic episodes were and depressive episodes were. So that alone changed so much for me. Because then all the questions I had about myself, even if my therapists couldn't answer them over the years, all the questions I asked my parents over the years that was just met usually with criticism or just get over it kind of shit over the years, all the things I never would bring up to anyone because they hurt too bad, all these things I was able to start investigating on my own time. And then through doing that, I found that I started reading a lot, something that shocked me because I never liked to read. And then I started learning a lot. And then I started understanding myself. And once I started to understand myself, because I was reading case studies from psychologists and psychiatrists and them talking about their patients, and then I'm listening to other patients give their experiences of going through different therapy types, I'm going, oh, I'm connecting to all these people and their reactions through what they've gone through. And you go, oh, this is where we're all connected. It's in the mind. And then again, this is where the manic episode hit about a year ago. When you find things like spirituality or tarot card readings or, things like that, you can, if you're easily gullible or manipulatable or, encourageable, you can start to believe, well, maybe since I have done this life all wrong, maybe I can connect to a divine source. And some people just find modern day Christianity and call it God, and they stick themselves on the life path of the Christ path. Great. And that gives them purpose, and that gives them values, and that gives them things to look forward to in a community. And that's really what we're all searching for in the end. For me, I didn't find that. I found that to be the anti. I found, the church to be where people abandon you and people gossip about you and people leave. And if you don't meet the tally, then you're disregarded for someone that will. And, I had no interest in that. So in the last couple years, we'll get to the manic episode, I got really into spirituality and being by myself, because originally the foundation of my spirituality journey started in like Hinduism and Buddhism. So it became a lot of meditations and isolations and days without talking and stuff like that, because I just wanted to listen to my mind and learn to just let it go and just let it run and let me see what it came out with. And I was just expressing this to my wife the other day. The best way I can explain my mind to work is if I close my eyes. I don't know how your guys' thoughts come up, but I have to do mine as either like a movie reel where they come in reels, or it's like blips in a screen, right? So each blip, imagine you have a screen up there and a bunch of windows open up, and each one is a different thought. Now, one doesn't last for more than a second or two. It's just a blip of something that's giving me, but I've got anywhere from 10 to 50 of these blips going off at any time, and at each moment, I'm choosing to invest in one or two of them. Now, the other ones are still sitting there kind of glitching and glaring, and I'm trying to figure that out, but most of the time, that's just external stimuli that I'm experiencing, which becomes very overwhelming to me. So then when I've got all those, and then I've got the ones of self-doubt over here, and then I've got the goal or the task that I'm currently trying to get towards. Well, this one's not blinking as red as I would need it to guide me towards that one. The one that used to be blinking like fun and drinking and fuck all your responsibilities, that one used to blink really, really loud. Because again, I was a runner. So then I would go on these benders where I would be very grandiose and buying everyone's shots and doing all this and doing all that and having a great time. Then the money would run out and boom, you'd be in a week of depression because you had to wait for the money to come in. So in spirituality, I would find I'll just stay by myself. I'll let my mind run and I'll let all these boxes go. But I'm not going to connect to any of them. Okay? And then I started to notice that life changed a little. But it changed, I think, in a very artificial way, that I got on a routine of like watching tarot card readings that told me about life synchronicities and stuff like this. And then, you do naturally start watching the clock more and you start to see these synchronicities and you go, oh, wow, this connection that I have is real with this divine whatever. A lot like I did when I was in the Christian church. And you believe that you've now found this new life path. And you explore it, as I think we should, because that's life. And I think we have it as a human obligation to explore this life. And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. And you can reach out to people and you can talk to people and you can have conversations. I think that's good and I think that's healthy. And you can be hurt from that. You can rip open old wounds and tear your heart out. But if you do it intentionally, if you go into it with the idea that I'm doing this to find truth, regardless of how painful that truth is, well, you can still get your truth. Just be understanding of the fact that truth hurts sometimes, right? So then again, you have traumatic experiences that you're now putting yourself through to test yourself to see how you would have handled that a year ago, or you're still going to handle that this way now. And I can tell you, it's only through the journey of being diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder that even gives me the hindsight to look at my life that way. So now, since the last manic episode I had a year ago, and I'm not saying I haven't had them since, but they don't get as severe like that, where I'm running to Nashville to get drunk to be able to deal with a situation in my life that I just wasn't willing to give myself the time to responsibly map out and do correctly. I was still young in development of behavioral modification, which is just because you acknowledge a situation doesn't mean immediate action is required. When you can learn that and you can see it because you made the mistake of acting too fast or being impulsive, or this is where you're in a manic state. Then when the depressive episode hits, if you allow it to really be felt and you dedicate to not cover it with substances, you can examine it fully and you can let it hurt, and you'll find the truth in there. You'll find that the people that abandoned you, and that hurt you a lot, and that they're choosing, in that caused you great pain. And then, if you want to allow it to continue to spiral, you can start to entertain ideas like they continue to choose to keep you out of their life. Or you can realize, again, that is a spiral. That is one of these blips that you are choosing to engage with. If you choose not to engage with that one and you look at your life for what it is, that's what we call mindfulness, being present in the moment. So while I'm still bipolar 1, and with that diagnosis, it comes with manic and depressive states, and I do still notice where some days I just don't have it in me, right? That's my natural reaction. I've put a thing in place, like a do it anyway kind of thing, when it's good stuff. So like every day I get out and walk, because that's good to get that energy out of my body. Because if it sits stagnant in the house, I don't know what those blips are going to turn into, but I know that they're a lot quieter and I can control the panel easier when I move my body early in the morning, right? And again, this is all just how I've dealt with my life, because my bipolar disorder has been less of an effect on my jobs, more of an effect on my relationships, because it causes you to be very needy and then very distant and then very needy and then very distant kind of thing. in jobs, again, my whole life I've just been a flight risk. So like at any moment, I'm down to say fuck this shit and go explore something else, because I've always had this weird belief that everything will work out. And that's just a part of who I am. So is that a part of me being bipolar and manic, or is that just a part of me being Cam? That I do believe that in the end, you know, your life turns out the way it's supposed to. It's just our constant fighting and denial of what that is for it. Whatever it's supposed to be, we're always fighting the universe with what that is. We're going, no, my life's supposed to look like this. And the universe is going, hey, no, it fucking doesn't. And you go, but I'm telling you, it's me. I'm telling you, I know what my life's supposed to look like. And the universe is going, you don't know shit. How many times do I have to show you this? Do you need to sit in bed for another 5 days and feel sorry about your life? Because, again, it is what it is. It is exactly what it is. So with tarot card readings and spirituality and stuff like that, you can feel like you have some control. But that's also just a sense of denial that I think if you analyze it, you'll find you do in depressive episodes. Or possibly manic episodes when you feel like you're actually in control of something. So you do this and go, see, I'm validated, I have control. I find manic is usually control, I have control. Depressive episodes, I've lost all control, I have no control. This life is unmanageable. So therefore, I default to just laying here and surrendering. That's how I try to see it now. When I'm stuck in bed or stuck on my back scrolling, whatever, because I'm just laying around, I'm surrendering right now. I'm supposed to be doing this, and I'm not. Those blips are still going off. And that's, I was just talking about, and I'll read it now. There's a quote that I really found impactful by Gabber Mate. He's a psychologist, very popular speaker on addiction and mental health. He said, "This is my life. I need to be the agent of my own life. It's not the traumas of my childhood that cause me to behave, but my willingness to heal that trauma." So again, I think it's the years of people telling you that you shouldn't have been in pain. It's the people that tell you to just get over it, and the people that downplay how important things are to you that prevent your healing. Because once you acknowledge that all you're doing is running from past feelings, it becomes a lot easier to stop lacing up your shoes so fast, because you go, oh, those people, those things, that reality is not actually chasing me. So I don't need to put my running shoes on to run from it. If I just stop and I sit and I feel, and man, it hurts. Ooh, boy, does it hurt. I mean, I sit and cry all the time. Sometimes multiple times a week. Well, I'll just sit and fucking cry. And I'm like, yo. And I feel like I'm 10 years old again. Dealing with wondering, am I ever going to see my best friend again? And going, oh my God. And then just like that, flashes come up of every person I've ever met and then never seen again. And it's and I just mourn those losses for a minute. And it's but if I don't, I'm going to carry all those people with me all day long. And I can't do that. They get too heavy. And I have shit to do. I have a life to chase. I have what I believe is my sole mission on this earth, which is to be love to everyone who's willing to accept it. Right? And I found that through church, and I found that through Hinduism and Buddhism and every other type of spiritual lessons that I take from. They all are the common thing of be love and be kindness and learn to heal your pains. And sometimes as humans, we have mood conditions that present themselves through the trials and error of human life. And I think that's okay. And I'm here to talk about them with you. And I'm grateful that you guys were here to listen. If you made it all the way, please hit thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm getting the hell out of here. I've wasted enough of your guys' time today. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments. Love you.